Am I the a-hole for letting my child steal a puppy? Story. I'm 31 and my husband is 30. Our daughter is 7 and she found a puppy in the front yard and played with it. Turns out it belonged to our neighbors who were looking for it. They accused her of stealing it and my husband gave her extra chores. She refused to do them, saying she didn't steal the puppy. The neighbors came to apologize a bit later as their son confessed to losing the puppy on a walk when he took its leash off. That's how it ended up on our yard. I came home that evening and my husband explained this. He said she should be disciplined for not doing the chores. I said she was right to not accept unearned punishment. He said it's the principle and she should listen to her father. I said I would rather die than teach her that she should lay down and accept mistreatment. We argued and he called me unreasonable. Am I the a-hole? Response 1. NTA. My bigger red flag here is your husband's actions through all of this. He took the word of a stranger over his own child, assigned a punishment based on a misunderstanding that was later cleared up, but refuses to lift the punishment and apologize for his actions towards your daughter. His arbitrary, she should listen to her father, is the bigger red flag for me. He refuses to back down and admit when he is wrong and is keeping up with an unearned punishment he wants to double down on because she fought against it in the first place when it was wrongly assigned. OP. Please keep an eye on this. I'm not saying it is currently abusive behavior, but it's got the leanings of possible future abusive behavior. There's nothing wrong with punishing a child when you actually do something wrong, but there is everything wrong with not admitting to being in the wrong and refusing to apologize when needed. Your husband is an AH. Reply 1. Maybe not abuse right now, but he is setting up his daughter to blindly follow male authority and any arbitrary consequences imposed. At the very least, it's creating a vulnerability. Reply 2. Exactly. He's teaching her that anyone with power and authority over her shouldn't be questioned in any way. This is setting her up for a lifetime of unlearning problematic behaviors. Reply 3. Like OP and the husband, I'm in my 30s. Not a parent or planning to be one, but I still remember all the unfairness I put up with as a kid, getting in trouble for tattling on other kids who were bullying me, being punished for not understanding social norms I wasn't taught yet, being called a liar for no reason, etc. I'd escape by reading books like A Series of Unfortunate Events that assured me that children are people and adults don't know everything. Like, did this man forget what being a child is like? Does he not give a crap? I would hope people my age would be better than the adults we grew up with. But I guess that's not always the case. I feel awful for this little girl. Reply 4. And this vulnerability ESP in women is what abusers prey upon. Teach your daughter strength, please. Reply 5. Absolutely agree. This is that thing we pesky women keep talking about where women are socialized to be doormats to men. He's doing that to her now. Response 2. I got into it with my husband one time years ago. My oldest son, from first marriage, was maybe 12 at the time, making a box of mac and cheese for lunch for himself and little brother. When it came time to put in the butter, he did exactly what he'd seen me do dozens of times. Slice it up so it melts faster before pouring in cold milk. For some reason, husband took issue with him cutting up this little quarter stick of butter. Told him to just drop it in and stir it up and it will melt just fine. My son finished slicing it up while hubby got more irritated. I stepped in trying to explain he's just doing it how he's seen me do it and trying to figure out why the hell it was such a big deal. Like, am I missing something that's wrong about slicing butter? Turned out that husband got mad because my son didn't immediately do what he said. We had a really long discussion about that kind of attitude. Fortunately, he learned his lesson on what is important to make an issue out of and what isn't. And slicing butter is not a major issue. Reply 1. Children shouldn't have to bow in fear to their parents, and parents really need to pick that hill to die on, and hopefully it's not stupid crap like slicing the butter or not. Parents need to take a step back and understand their kids are not robots. Reply 2. My parents constantly say that one of their proudest parenting achievements was knowing when not to say no. Kids aren't stupid, they know when you're full of crap. They are the kids and you are the adult, and that relationship can be enforced when necessary, like if something is life/future threatening. But if you don't grant them some autonomy to grow, they're going to rebel against you and slash or resent you. Reply 3. Yep. get away from the furnace, it's going to explode, is a time to expect and demand instant compliance. Don't cut up the butter because I don't think it's necessary is not. Reply 4. And in my humble opinion, giving kids stupid orders will eventually cause them to rebel against said parent, of course. And then, get away from the furnace, it's going to explode is met with a foo, and then it explodes. It's kind of similar to the boy who cried wolf, or the parent who demands you follow military-level commands. Kid will eventually see these orders are BS half the time, casting doubt over the parent's every order. And then something bad will happen because the kid no longer trusts the parent has their best interest. Because they don't. The parent cares more about being obeyed always than actual sensible corrective behavior when warranted. Reply 5. This. It failed with abstinence-only sex ed, it failed with the war on drugs. When you treat every offense as a capital offense, everything you say becomes an exaggeration to be ignored. Response 3. NTA, your husband needs to grow the F up. Part of being a person, especially an adult, is knowing when to admit you made a mistake and apologizing for it. It doesn't matter if it's to a child or another adult. He is being unreasonable. It's one thing to consider the words of a stranger and then listen to your child. People will lie or misunderstand. That goes for kids and adults. Why would your husband believe your child was capable of stealing someone's pet? That's a pretty clear, I know my kid didn't do this type of thing, and usually rephrasing a question or explaining things gets a kid that young to admit what they did, even if inadvertently. The biggest takeaway here is that strangers came back to apologize for their accusation. But dad can't manage to apologize to his own child, not only for not believing her, but levying a punishment with zero facts. No one should blindly listen to an adult when the adult is wrong. That sets a terrible precedent of a child not knowing when it's safe to refuse anything from unwanted contact from a family member or being forced to do something they know is wrong. Reply 1. Absolutely. Good parents, strong, capable parents apologize when they are wrong, and we are often wrong. The absolute last thing a parent should do when correcting a child is take anything personally. We model the behavior we want to encourage as best we can. Reply 2. I expect my kid to apologize to me or anyone else when he's done something that warrants an apology. It would be stupid of me not to apologize to him when I've done something that warrants an apology. I expect him to say, please, thank you, and you're welcome. So I tell him, please, thank you, and you're welcome. People expect their bosses and crap to lead by example, but don't give their kids the same courtesy, and it's always baffled me. Reply 3. You/outrageous. Second 792 pointed out that it's also worth asking how a 7-year-old had time and occasion to steal this puppy. Leave her own home, break into the neighbor's home, take the puppy, notoriously a totally silent and cooperative creature, sneak back home and just randomly play with it in the front yard where the neighbors could see and accuse her. Is daddy cracking down this hard so no one asks him why he was so quick to believe his daughter pulled all that off if he was looking after her properly? Response 4. No, you're not. He, however, is doing her best to teach her that he will punish her regardless of whether she's guilty or not. What he should have done was apologized for not believing her, apologized for not looking deeper into it, and apologized for imposing, and is still trying, to impose a punishment for an infraction she did not commit. It seems that he will complete mental gymnastics to prove he's never wrong. If he repeats this type of behavior, you will end up with a child who not only distrusts her father but also dislikes him, will keep him at a distance, and when the teenage years hit, will actively show their disregard for him. Not the a-hole. Reply 1. No, you're not. He, however, is doing her best to teach her that he will punish her regardless of whether she's guilty or not. This, right here. It'll have one or all of these unintended consequences. A. Create a beaten-down child/adult with little initiative and who requires direction so as to avoid problems leading to a lifetime of sadness and open to manipulation and abuse by others. Or B. Teaching them to become an absolute terror because you're always wrong, regardless. So they figure they might as well earn the wrongness. Or C. Become exceedingly efficient at manipulation and hiding wrongdoing from the parentees. Response 5. OP, not the a-hole. But both your neighbors and your husband are. Why did your husband immediately believe the neighbors when they claim your daughter stole their puppy? Does he believe she has thievery tendencies? O.P. You were not wrong to cancel the extra chores, but I think your husband should probably take some parenting classes and work on being a better parent. Reply 1, NTA, and also, that sounds like something my father would have done when I was a kid. I now call him about once a month and see him maybe 5 times a year. Granted, there were other circumstances that led to our distant relationship, but I never trusted him to support me, and he's stubborn enough to not apologize if he's wrong. Response 6, NTA. Your husband is trying to instill blind obedience. Your daughter obviously has strong critical thinking skills. Unfortunately, this will likely continue because a lot of parents want obedient children more than children that can think for themselves. Response 7. Daughter is right, she didn't do it. Why do the punishment if you didn't do it? That is like you are pressed to say sorry for something you haven't done. Also, she is just 7. What kind of chores did he want her to do anyway? And she is already doing some chores anyway if I read this correctly. Honestly, sounds like you have a husband problem. Someone who can't say he was wrong. Response 8. NTA, your husband is... What principle is he teaching your daughter? That no matter if she is right or wrong, if someone with more power than her wants to punish her, it doesn't matter if she is innocent? Response 9. NTA, O.P, please keep arguing about this and don't let up. Your husband's in the wrong, and what he's doing is teaching your daughter that it doesn't matter what's right or wrong, or if you're guilty, you listen to dad. He's also teaching her that you can't change your opinion. You have to reiterate it and argue so that you're always right. Sometimes, when you learn more information, your opinion or views change. She should be allowed to do that. My dad was the exact same way when I was growing up, and I could barely stand him. I didn't want to be near him and would leave when he came in the room. It was easier just not talking to him because I didn't know what would set him off or what ridiculous thing I'd be yelled at for. I moved out a few years ago and we're a couple hours away from each other. Our relationship only got repaired because I started calling him out on his behavior and he started understanding what I was saying. We're now really close. Your husband starts breaking the trust in relationship every time he punishes her or yells without reasoning. Eventually she won't like him or will act out / have behavior problems, and then it'll just get worse. He may have only done it once, but it just takes a few times for it to become a pattern. Best wishes. Response 10. Your kid is 7 and her dad just thought she straight up stole a puppy at 7 years old? Not the a-hole, but have a talk with your husband about his thoughts regarding children. Reply 1. Not only stole it, also she's so dumb that plays with it right in front of the truthful owners. Facepalm. Who would believe that? Reply 2. It's disturbing common for adults to think that children are born with wickedness and sinful tendencies and then abuse the children accordingly. I hope OP's husband isn't like that, but expecting his children to obey him and accept unearned punishment are not good signs. Response 11. NTA. She's been exonerated. Your husband should apologize for the misunderstanding and drop it. That way, when he hands out legitimate punishments, she will take them seriously. The purpose of discipline is to teach proper behavior, not to teach submissiveness. He's a father now. He needs to be more reasonable than his child, not less. Reply 1. I completely agree. The purpose of discipline is teaching proper behavior, not to teach submissiveness. Is exactly how I feel about discipline. The father's initial reaction was unfair because he didn't think about the situation and didn't talk to the child before making the call to punish. It could have been handled better from the start, but mistakes happen. It's how you handle the mistake once you know about it that makes you a decent person versus an A. Doubling down on the punishment, knowing the daughter didn't do anything wrong solidly makes dad TA. Reply 2. Exactly. No parent is perfect, but owning up to our mistakes and making amends is a teaching tool in and of itself. Once your child comes to correctly perceive your punishments are arbitrary, they lose all sense of right and wrong, and the punishments completely lose their effectiveness. If I'm going to get in trouble for stealing a puppy regardless of whether I actually stole it or not, I might as well steal it and at least have fun. Response 12. NTA. She didn't steal the puppy and she didn't deserve to be punished. Your husband wants to punish her anyway out of principle. The only thing this will teach her is that her father is prepared to punish her for no reason. Response 13. Your husband is a bully who gets his kicks from forcing his will on a child. That is no way for a child to grow up. He needs to sort his crap out fast, and if he doesn't, it's your job to protect her from him. Response 14, NTA, make your husband do them. Since he's all about doing punishments, even when you didn't do a crime, he should be fine doing them with her watching. Kind of like reparations. Response 15, your husband feels he must be obeyed, right or wrong. That is troubling. Who does he think he is? Your 7-year-old has more sense. Is he this authoritarian about things in general? Reply 1. My dad was like this. Lots of no, because I said so. Can I go play with my friends? No, but there will be an adult there and you don't have to drive me or pick me up. I'll be home before dinner. No, I don't want you going because I said so. I wasn't a badly behaved child. I truly think he just enjoyed saying no to things, and I was expected to just follow along and not ask questions or request an explanation. Response 16, your husband wants to punish your daughter because he feels she should have listened to him, and I'm genuinely curious why the same doesn't apply to him, not the a-hole he assumed to worsen her, and worse yet, wants to continue the punishment to cushion his own ego. Why can he not admit that he was in the wrong and did not behave well, and instead wants to carry out an unnecessary punishment born of his own misunderstanding? Response 17, NTA, you are right. Your daughter is right. Your husband is wrong. I remember being just like your daughter, and my dad was like your husband, at least in this way. I was often confused and hurting, and being punished for things that didn't make sense. I could never bring myself to go along with things that don't make sense. Turns out I'm autistic, which might explain it. My mom's support was the only thing that got me through. I'm now 33, and Mom lives with me, and I do everything I can for her. She's an amazing woman and mother, and she deserves to relax, so I look after her and she does what she likes all the time. Stick up for your daughter. It may not keep the peace with other family members, but it will teach her a valuable lesson and she'll probably be grateful forever. Response 18. I grew up with a dad like this, refused to admit he was ever wrong about anything, and never gave a sincere apology in the entire 18 years I lived at home. We're low contact now, O.P, I'd keep an eye on behavior like that. What power trip does he get from punishing a child for something she didn't do? Response 19. How stupid are your neighbors and your husband? A 7-year-old stealing a dog sounds a bit dramatic, don't you think? Do you all live in a correctional facility or something? Reply 1. How would a 7-year-old even steal a puppy without their parents seeing what they're doing? The only way something like that could happen would be if O.P, quote, husband allows their daughter to wander around their neighborhood unsupervised. Response 20. NTA. Also, I would consider what this message could teach your daughter, that she needs to blindly obey those in authority, even if it means being wrongfully mistreated. Women are already pressured to be polite and non-disruptive, and this is just enforcing this message. What if one day, God forbid, a family member tells her to do something inappropriate to them, or let them do something inappropriate to her? Her father's lesson will teach her that she should let that happen, and if he says that she only needs to listen to you two, that doesn't mitigate the danger, because physical, mental, and sexual abuse can come from parents. I don't know your husband. If this is a one-off and uncharacteristic of him, I'd consider sitting down and explaining the danger this could cause. That being said, I urge you to take a deeper look to see if this is a larger pattern of behavior. If it is, I would reevaluate whether the relationship should be salvaged, or if your husband could potentially be causing harm to your daughter or you, or setting the circumstances up so that he could